It begins, as these stories so often do, in the quietest of places, a rural schoolyard in Henan Province, 1996. The morning was thick with fog, the sun barely a ghost behind the haze. It seemed ordinary, but something was wrong. A heavy silence hung over the playground, broken only by the creak of an empty swing. Mr. Wei, the groundskeeper, arrived first, his breath visible in the cold air. The silence stopped him, no birds, no village chatter. He opened the classroom door and a metallic scent hit him. It was blood, a smell that didn't belong among chalk dust and old books. His heart pounded as he stepped inside. The classroom was devastation, overturned desks, papers stained red, morning light revealing a scene of violence. The innocence of this place was shattered. The nightmare had begun, and no one yet knew its name. This was not random madness. It was calculated, predatory, the first act of a reign of terror that would grip rural China for years. The man responsible would become known as the Schoolyard Butcher. He had chosen his hunting ground, a place of vulnerability, and declared war on the very idea of childhood safety. The fog outside seemed to seep into the room, mirroring the dread taking hold. The community's innocence was lost in a single morning. The school, once a sanctuary, was now a crime scene. The world tilted and nothing would be the same. The Schoolyard Butcher had made his chilling debut. The silence was no longer peaceful. It was the beginning of a nightmare. The first victim was not just a child, but the community's sense of safety. And so, the story of terror began. His name was Jiang Guoqing, a name that soon became a curse whispered across the countryside. From 1996 to 2003, Jiang moved like a phantom through Henan, Anhui, and Shandong. He targeted children, watching schools for weeks, learning their routines. He struck in moments of vulnerability, early mornings, late afternoons. Jiang was a predator who exploited innocence with chilling precision. Fear spread like wildfire. Schools became fortresses. Parents formed anxious groups. Playgrounds fell silent. Every stranger eyed with suspicion. Jiang left chaos but few clues. He was a man without a face, a legend growing with each attack. Police had only vague, contradictory descriptions. For 7 years, he was the unanswered question, the source of a terror that had no name or face. The countryside was gripped by a living nightmare. Jiang's myth grew, and so did the fear. The monster under the bed was real, and he was everywhere and nowhere. The whispering terror choked the life out of rural China, and still he remained a ghost. Jiang's horror was in his choice of setting. Schools, sanctuaries turned slaughterhouses. He used knives, cleavers, the tools of a butcher. The violence was intimate, terrifying, and absolute. Imagine. A classroom door creaks open. A stranger steps in, weapon in hand. Confusion turns to terror as innocence is extinguished in an instant. The aftermath: blood-stained floors, overturned desks, abandoned bags. A red ribbon in a pool of blood, a symbol of innocence lost. These were not just crime scenes. They were monuments to profound loss. Survivors were left with wounds deeper than any physical injury. The sound of a door, the sight of a stranger, triggers for lifelong terror. Jiang didn't just attack bodies, he attacked minds. He dismantled trust, turning schools into places of dread. His legacy was fear, his playgrounds forever tainted. The laughter of children was replaced by silence. The Schoolyard Butcher's shadow lingered long after he was gone. Fear seeped into every corner of rural life. Markets grew quiet, doors bolted at dusk, windows shuttered. The idea of one man, a ghost, turned neighbors into suspects. The social fabric frayed. Trust was replaced by suspicion. Children felt it most. Playgrounds silent, freedom gone. Parents became jailers, shrinking their children's world to 4 walls. The monster was everywhere, in warnings, in empty swings, in anxious glances. Police seemed powerless. The government felt distant. Villagers formed makeshift watches, but they hunted a shadow. Helplessness and paranoia took root. The community was collapsing from within. The hunt for the Schoolyard Butcher was a masterclass in frustration. Rural policing was fragmented. Communication between provinces was slow and bureaucratic. Jiang exploited this, striking in one province and vanishing into another. Manhunts were massive but clumsy. Thousands of officers, no results. Descriptions were unreliable. Jiang blended in as just another migrant worker. The police net was full of holes. Technology was lacking. No surveillance cameras, no DNA databases. Investigators relied on old-fashioned methods, but Jiang left little evidence. He was careful, clean, a ghost leaving only echoes. The police fought a modern predator with outdated tools. Pressure mounted, but the body count rose. Tensions flared between departments. The case file grew thicker with dead ends. The real ghost in the machine was the system that let him slip through. For 7 years, the investigation was defined by missteps. Police clung to the idea of a local suspect, wasting time on dead ends. Jiang had no personal connection to his victims. His motive was the act itself. Attacks in different provinces were treated as separate cases. No one saw the bigger picture. The failure to share information was Jiang's greatest advantage. Public trust in police eroded. Officers became symbols of impotence. Villagers stopped cooperating, feeling abandoned and vulnerable. The case became a burden for investigators, a symbol of institutional failure. The cost was measured in stolen lives and enduring fear. The breakthrough came from slow, painstaking work and a new strategy. In 2003, a joint task force from all 3 provinces pooled their files and evidence. They mapped attacks, analyzed timelines, and built a new profile: a transient, a migrant worker. The search narrowed to labor markets and construction sites. One name emerged: Jiang Guoqing, a construction worker whose jobs coincided with the killings. He was no longer a ghost. He had a name. The final clue came from a survivor, a boy who remembered a scar above the killer's left eye. Police checked Jiang's file. The scar matched. The net was finally closing. The takedown was precise surveillance, patience, and then, as Jiang left work, officers moved in. He was arrested without a struggle. The 7-year reign of the Schoolyard Butcher ended quietly, with handcuffs on a dusty roadside. The monster was caught. Relief was mixed with disbelief. The nightmare was over, but the scars remained. The countryside exhaled, but the damage was done. Jiang Guoqing's arrest brought not relief, but a heavy silence. For families, it was the start of a new pain. Closure was elusive. The monster had a face, but the loss felt even more senseless. Schools became fortresses. High walls, security guards, strict rules. The sense of community was lost, replaced by fear. Jiang's trial was somber. He offered no explanation, no remorse. He was executed, but his death didn't erase the scars. The silence that followed was one of mourning. Empty chairs, muted laughter, grieving parents. The threat was gone, but Jiang's ghost lingered. He taught a terrible lesson about the fragility of innocence. The screaming had ended, but the silence was just as terrifying. The countryside would never be the same. Today, more than 2 decades later, a new generation plays in those schoolyards. High fences and security guards are now normal. For survivors, the scars remain, etched into memory and landscape. The fear has faded, but the memory endures, passed down as a cautionary tale. For grieving parents, time has only changed the shape of their sorrow. Justice was served, but restoration was impossible. Jiang's crimes left an indelible mark on rural China. The illusion of safety was shattered, vulnerability exposed. Questions linger. How did he evade capture? Could it happen again? This is a story about more than a killer. It's about the loss of innocence. The countryside has never fully awakened from that long, dark night. Life goes on, but the shadows are longer, the silence deeper. The scars left by Jiang Guoqing are a chilling reminder of the horror that once was, and the fragility of peace.